RoomSense Labs sent me their RoomSense IQ presence sensor, and let me tell you, you're going to want this presence sensor to help you automate the boring stuff. Welcome back to SlackerLabs. My name is Jeff. The team over at RoomSense Labs reached out about taking a look at their RoomSense IQ presence sensor that will be launching soon. They're not paying me to do this video, and in reality, I almost turned them down. But I'm glad I didn't turn them down, because this little sensor is amazing. In fact, in my studio, I was using an Aqara P1 motion sensor along with a room presence Bluetooth device to handle my lighting. And since I was using that P1 sensor, and it didn't handle things like me sitting still to record a video or working the day job, I had a large for condition on my no motion trigger to ensure that the automation didn't turn off the lights when I had been sitting still. But this sensor worked so well that I removed the for condition and haven't had it turn off the lights on me once. This is a pre-release model, so don't be surprised if something is slightly different when you get your hands on yours. Anyway, let's talk hardware. The RoomSense IQ is billed as the ultimate room attendance sensor. And from what I've seen, I think it can live up to that title. In the box, you'll get the sensor itself, a mount with a ball joint that makes adjusting it easy, a long USB-C cable for power, and some hardware to mount this on the wall. This little sensor is built on an ESP32, and it combines millimeter wave and PIR technology to detect presence and filter out non-human triggers to reduce false positives. Its field of view is 120 degrees with an effective range of 6 meters, and it includes a light meter, a temperature sensor, and a humidity sensor. And finally, it's built on open source hardware, which means that you could take this sensor and adapt it for your needs specifically. This is a Wi-Fi device, and they built it with the idea of adding Matter support in the future. So all it's going to need is a firmware update. While there's no official timeline for when Matter will be enabled, I won't be surprised if we see this sooner than later. One of the things that makes this device stand out is it's built to connect directly with Home Assistant. Other smart home platforms, including Amazon, Google, and HomeKit, are supported through If This Then That. But so far, I've only used this with Home Assistant, since it's my primary smart home platform. As with any motion or presence sensor, placement of this device is going to be key. As you may have noticed, I recently relocated my studio to the basement, which should give me more space. And I added the RoomSense IQ to a corner facing the area where people come and go from this space, but where it has a view of my desk and a view of where I plan on shooting my videos. The device does come with some drywall anchors and command strips, but I used command strips to mount this just in case I decided to move it later, and in fact, I've already moved it once. Now that it's mounted and powered on, let's talk the Home Assistant integration. The team over at RoomSense Lab created this really awesome reference guide that walks you through the setup and getting your RoomSense IQ integrated into Home Assistant. So I've decided to just go over it at a high level. In any case, when the RoomSense IQ gets released, I would refer to this reference guide for the latest steps. I do want to call out a few things though. First, this is going to require some additional add-ons in order to integrate it with Home Assistant. You're going to need MQTT, an SSH terminal, a way to edit your YAML configuration files. The 3 listed on this webpage right here are add-ons that you can just add to your Home Assistant setup through the Home Assistant add-on store. I have videos that I'll link to in the description where I walk through setting these up. So if you need a reference guide for those, check out those links. But once you have those add-ons set up, you're going to start by connecting to this device and updating its firmware, connecting it to your Wi-Fi network, connecting it to your MQTT broker on your Home Assistant instance. And once you've got all of that set up, you can reboot Home Assistant, and you should be able to head over to Devices and Integrations and be able to find all of the entities that this device sends over to Home Assistant. After that, we have to make some changes to our configuration file and set up your Home Assistant instance to use packages, set it up to use PyScript, and download some YAML files used to build a dashboard. Now, that might seem overly complicated, but it's really not that bad. And again, the team is working on streamlining the whole setup process. For one, the SiteSense dashboard will soon leverage an internal web server instead of being a dashboard, which should remove some of the previous steps that we just did in the future. But in any case, when your system comes back up, you're ready to start automating with this device. But this device has a lot of options in terms of dialing in your configuration. So let's take a look at the SiteSense dashboard. This is the SiteSense dashboard, and you set this up as part of that process that is laid out in the resource guide. Up at the top, you've got your current room state, which mine is occupied. You've got the distance to the target in centimeters. And you have the PIR sensor, which lights up when it sees motion. And of course, as I'm sitting here recording, I talk with my hands, and so that's what you're seeing. Again, there's a lot to go over on this dashboard, but I'm going to try to stay at a high level. Over on the left side of the dashboard, under the parameters config, you have what RoomSense calls proxy sense. This is where you're going to dial in your zones. You can see that you have a range to each of your zones, and you have a macro and a micro threshold. Think of macro and micro as classes of movement. Macro is going to be large movements, like full body movements, like walking, and micro is going to be smaller movements, like breathing. And as part of this video and this setup process, I left everything on this dashboard at the default levels. The only thing I did was turn on CalSense, which I'll talk about here in just a minute, which created these two lines on both the macro and the micro graphs. So if we scroll down on the dashboard, underneath Proxy Sense, you've got the slider in which you get to set your max macro range and the max micro range. And by default, it's 600 centimeters or 6 meters. Under that, you have your timeout setting, currently at 20 seconds, and below that you can set the PIR sensitivity. The two options underneath that are where things start to get a little interesting. BedSense is used to make this sensor more reliable in a bedroom, and if you turn BedSense on, what it does is disables the PIR sensor and only detects occupancy with the millimeter wave radar. The intent here is to make it more focused on smaller things like breathing. Underneath this is CalSense, which is a way to calibrate your thresholds. And before I turn that on, you see the temperature graph, the humidity graph, and the light density. All right, so if we turn CalSense on and we head back up, you'll see that now I have a line that is moving on both of these dashboards. The way this sensor works is that bottom line is the detection, and the static line is your thresholds. As you can see, this is laid out in the centimeters for your zones, and the vertical here is the threshold. Anytime this line crosses this static threshold line, the sensor says the room is occupied, with both the macro and the micro movements. But this allows you to dial in your settings, because as you can see, most of my movement is happening here in this area, which is based on the distance I am from the sensor. So if we wanted to dial this in a bit, we could adjust the slider for that zone and raise it up. And now as you see, this zone requires a little more movement, and my macro movement doesn't quite reach that most of the time. So using these sliders is how you would adjust this for each of your zones. But if you wanted to ignore any of these particular zones, you just set your threshold all the way at the max 100, and then it will never trip. Anyway, there's probably a whole video here on just how to configure this using these different zones, but I wanted to give you a quick overview of how this dashboard works, just so you'll know how to start playing around when you get in here. Like I said in the intro, I'm currently using this to handle my lighting automations in my studio space, and what I find really impressive is just the accuracy of this device right out of the box. All I did was replace the Aqara P1 in the triggers of that automation with the RoomSense IQ, and of course removed that 1 hour and 10 minutes threshold to prevent the lights from turning off if the P1 didn't see me move for long periods. But I also think we're going to be able to do some cool zone-based automations with this as well. And if you need even more examples of how to leverage this device inside of Home Assistant, They even have some walkthroughs on how to build some automations for use cases like room lighting and TV automation right in their resource guide. They also walk you through setting up this device to help your Amazon Music follow you from room to room throughout your house. In any case, I plan on integrating this device deeper into my room presence, and I expect you're going to see future videos about it as I play more with my room presence setup. Personally, I'm not afraid of tinkering with things, but there's a whole group of Home Assistant users that want the Home Assistant experience without the tinkering parts. And while you can use this device right out of the box like I've already talked about, this device does give you the ability to define which zones your sensor needs to pay attention to, but it's all done by adjusting sliders based on distance to that zone. And while I think this gives you more flexibility to really dial in the areas that are important in your space, it isn't as simple as seeing a visual representation of your space and drawing boxes as you might do on a robot vacuum setup. This device also doesn't give you a count of how many people are detected in the space. It simply tells you if the space is occupied. This is not really a standard function, but I do know the recent Aqara FB2 has the capability to detect multiple people. So the reality is, the biggest negative I see with this device is that it gives you so much freedom and so much access to options that some users might feel overwhelmed. But just because you have access to those options doesn't mean you need to flip the switches. Outside of that, I think this device is a pretty solid presence detection system. I did ask if there was a way to add some context as to whether a subject was moving towards or away from the sensor, and they're looking at adding that capability to a future firmware update. The RoomSense IQ hasn't started shipping yet, but the team tells me they're getting close. So head over to RoomSenseLabs.com and sign up for the email so you'll know when it gets released. I'm also not sure what the pricing is going to be yet, and again, I'm not affiliated with RoomSense, and I'm not earning anything on the sale of RoomSense gear. But everything I've seen in terms of device performance and the responses I got from my questions and feedback make me think that this device is going to be extremely useful, and the RoomSense team is committed to making this thing even more awesome. And it was built to be open source, with the idea that users have the freedom to adapt it to their needs and to contribute improvements, which is something that we need to see more of in smart home tech. So I'm excited to see where this goes, both once the Home Assistant community gets to tinker with it and what the RoomSense team comes up with next. As far as where I'm going right now, I'm off to create some zone-based automations so I can automate more of that boring stuff.